Hi folks, Nick Jones here, founder of Gen-Tec Nutrition, former world champion bodybuilder, here with my good friend and resident biochemist at Gen-Tec, Dane Ivicevic, also the director of BodyWell Institute. Dane, it's always great having you in here, mate. I don't see you enough, but tell us a bit about the difference. I mean, there's certainly the educated folks doing their research are talking about it. Tell us the difference and explain to us sacroplasmic hypertrophy and myofibrillar hypertrophy. What are they? What's the difference?
So myofibrillar hypertrophy is more, if we put it generally into two main categories, we would say myofibrillar is more strength associated, sacroplasmic is more muscular size. Although both of them can increase muscle size, so what would happen is those who do repetitions, let's say below 6, would initiate more of a myofibrillar adaptation. So the actual myofibrils, which we think of as the muscle fiber strands, the actual contractile proteins, they would obviously grow and develop and get thicker so that you have greater contractile strength when doing the exercise. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy doesn't increase the actual filament sizes necessarily, so it increases the cell size. So the muscle cell itself will actually look quite enlarged and will gain its volume, but there won't be any increases in strength. So some people say, which one do I do? Do I go for sarcoplasmic or do I go for myofibrillar? And you'll find that a crossover between the two is always best, because if you've got an increase in myofibrillar or sarcomere, strength, you're going to lift more weights, you're going to improve your sarcoplasmic, meaning high-end rep range. So it's really saying, for those who say, I'm going to do a heavy week, that's myofibrillar. If I'm going to do a light week, go for a pump, that's more sarcoplasmic, and you'll find most mix them together as well.
That is interesting, because when I think about it, and I think about in the trenches where I've learned most of my bodybuilding, we've always really combined a heavier strength component of our training along with a more muscular endurance, I guess higher rep range, even within the same workout, such as the old school pyramiding, where set number 1 might be 15 reps, and you work all the way down to set number 5 with the heaviest weight being around about 6. And so that's a pretty traditional bodybuilding pattern for training, and it's always worked, right?
Yeah, well,
so
it would
may be why.
It would be, and you'll even find those that are going for strength, even now and then, they'll push into maybe, it's still myofibrillar, but it's a cross, it's a bit of a hybrid. So when you think what happens between the rep range of 6 to 8, in a way you're kind of saying I'm getting a bit of both. But just like bodybuilding and strength training athletes do all the time, they adjust between the rep continuum. So in a way it's kind of adding science behind maybe things that people have already been doing, but understanding the difference can certainly allow you to distinguish between really going to focus on a hypertrophy aspect, considering, my strength has gone up X, Y, and Z, or what, I think it's strength I need to focus on, maybe I'll focus more myofibrillar, even though you would have a bit of both.
So tell me, what do you think is the best way to structure your training program? Should you do a strength workout, stick to low reps for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, and then go to more muscular endurance, sarcoplasmic style training? Or should you do it all within the one workout? What's the best way
so
to structure?
That's a really good question, because that's a little bit what's unclear, so to speak. So can we say this is exactly the way to go? It doesn't appear so, because that comes under periodization, but there are models that appear to be effective, and one might be, maybe there's going to be 2 weeks on that strength focus, 2 weeks that's sarcoplasmic. So you're alternating. Maybe it'll be 3 weeks that's hypertrophy and 1 week that's mainly strength focused. So you can arrange it into blocks, or maybe you'll go for a style of training where you mix motor functions, and by motor functions I mean power, strength, muscle endurance, all of those into it. So you might have said, great, I'm going to do strength and hypertrophy, and I've done that always. And that would be going for your primary big exercises for strength, and then moving into those supplementary accessories or hypertrophy focused exercises. And
maybe isolation movements and cables, etc.
It'd be like doing deadlift, but then you've got your, you might have your row or your back extensions, etc. to kind of focus and isolate muscle areas. And they're always traditionally done in more of a higher end rep range anyway. So good question, no real answer to them. You get to the end of that science and you go, what's the answer? You'll find that the best answer is probably the one you're not doing. So if it's you're doing 2 on, 2 off, maybe you should try doing them in the same session and try that for maybe a block of 4 weeks. But yeah, definitely one of those long-term models that is unclear, but an alternating fashion always appears to be good.
Sure. And of course, like any athlete, bodybuilders, like any athlete, we adapt more and more quickly with our training age, correct? So it's important to keep changing and challenging your body with all of the different variables.
I mean, some people say, you know, which exercise is best or what rep range is best, and they're all great, but often the one you're not doing is the best one to do because it's the one that you wake up and you've got delayed onset muscle soreness and you get those adaptations and you really feel it. That doesn't mean that was the be all and end all. It just means for you at your part in your training, that was an exercise that worked quite well. But obviously core exercises like your main, your deadlifts, your squats, your front squats, etc., they're always going to be there, but you can tailor that to say, I'm going to push a sacroplasmic version of this or higher rep range, get a pump, or I'm going to really focus on strength.
Yes.
With reps of 5 or 4 or something like that.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks, Dane. Always a wealth of knowledge, folks. We'll get him back real soon for some more stuff. Thanks, buddy.
No worries.